All right, I want to welcome on my next guest. We've got sports and entertainment attorney Dan Lust for Garagos and Garagos in New York. Dan, is everything going for you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy to be on the podcast. And obviously, we got a lot of fireworks in the sports law realm.
Yeah. So why don't we get right into that? So main topic discussion, the situation going on with Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. I haven't checked today. There's a lot of pending lawsuits against him. Can you kind of discuss the situation based on what you've seen and what you think will come out of this?
Yeah. So the most recent I've checked, and you were not wrong for saying that you haven't checked the news in a particular day because you don't look for 1 second. There's another 5 that are filed. So last I checked, there was 21 lawsuits that were filed. So there's a lot of I don't know. We'll say things that are not so normal, and I'm happy to come on and kind of separate what's normal versus what is atypical. But we've seen a rapid ascent in the number of lawsuits from 1 to 4 to 6 to 9 to 16 as of last Friday, and we might end the week with 30. So it's a lot. That's the overall gist. Right now we're at those are only civil lawsuits, no criminal charges filed. And as far as we've seen, Deshaun Watson has not filed any type of legal responsive papers, anything like that. So it's pretty much a one-sided legal argument at this point. It's just allegations, and that's really it.
The way the I'm drawing a blank. What is Tony Busby's turn? What is his role in this?
He's
The
the accuser's attorney.
Okay, the accuser's attorney. The way he's handled everything, is it a little odd to you?
I think it's a little odd to everyone. I think
Yeah.
it's odd to the people that are not lawyers because they think it's strange. And then when people ask me and they ask other lawyers, is this normal? And we said, no, there's a lot of things that, that first of all, a lot of things about the case that are not normal before, just Tony Busby, and just so people see a full picture. We mentioned 21 lawsuits. I know there's more accusers. Not all of them have filed lawsuits. Not all of them Tony Busby's firm has agreed to take on. So we know there's more accusers that he's spoken to. He's actually filed lawsuits, but it's close. It's like 90%. It's right around there.
Have
So
you been I have a question. Were you familiar with him prior to this?
I was not, but he's a very big Houston. He does a lot of plaintiffs work, so he's settled. If you're going to read his profile, about $2 billion of cases, and if you settle that many cases, you work on a contingency. You're going to get some percentage of that, which is going to be a lot of money. But yeah, I mean, it just goes without saying. I mean, it's just important to know. 24 accusers. And yesterday we had a development from Rusty Hardin, who's Deshaun Watson's lawyer. 18 massage therapists that come out in support of Deshaun Watson. So that said, we worked with him. He's got good character. Nothing bad happened. So here's the odd part from a human being level. That's now, if my rough math is correct,
A lot.
well, a lot of massage therapists.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter about the allegations, right? There's a lot. So that's odd. I don't know how many people are having 40 massages. Maybe if you're an athlete, I get it. 40 massages I can get. 40 different massage therapists, I don't really think is that normal. And I haven't found anybody that can say that that's normal. Now, mind you, this is a civil case, right? So plaintiff bears the burden of proof. If someone is really picky with, their barber or, the person that does their nails and they switch 40 times, sure. It doesn't mean that they've committed some type of crime, but it's not. It's a red flag overall about the case, not necessarily having anything to do with the legal allegations, but it's definitely adding up to making this case one of the weirder ones that I've ever followed.
And then so everybody's innocent until proven guilty, and every person who has the right to their day in court, if they found something wrong with any of the way he acted around him, and they should hear it because it's an ongoing issue that needs to end with sexual harassment and people in power kind of taking advantage of their power. But does the timing with the trade request and then the inundation, does that kind of jump out to you, or is that normal?
Well, it's not that normal that someone makes a request for a trade. I think it's two things. It's not that normal for someone of Deshaun Watson's caliber to request a trade. It happens maybe 2-3 times a year in any given sport, so that's not that normal. Right? We just saw it also in Houston, just coincidentally with James Harden. We see it with Anthony Davis. It doesn't really happen that frequently. Now, does it happen that after a trade was requested that there's a massive spree of lawsuits filed against someone? No, not that I've ever heard of that happening. The only one that maybe is some sort of a comparison is Antonio Brown when he was half in free agency, half trying to move teams, and then his legal trouble started to mount. But those were a lot of different legal issues from different people in different contexts. These all, again, they're allegations, but the allegations all have some similar tone. So yeah, this is just generally a very odd circumstance. And the other thing that I guess is odd from Tony Busby's perspective, just so people can understand that this is not necessarily that normal. These are allegations that occurred some as early as March of 2020, others over the summer, some in the fall of 2020, some actually in 2021. But they're all coming out like now, right? Victims have a right to bring their case whenever they want. There's some statute of limitations you have to deal with. But you can bring it out at any point in time. You know, some statutes. There's some states there's a very long statute of limitations, and statute of limitations basically your deadline to sue from the time something bad happens. So you wait, right? But for whatever reason, they're all coming forward right now. So why is that? Is that because Watson demanded a trade and he stands the most to lose, so maybe he'll pay the most money? That is one possible reason. The only thing, I mean, and that wouldn't be that odd. Like that's happened before. You know, if someone has a lot to lose, they get hit with a lawsuit. So that's not that odd. The odd part is that he's getting clients in the door on, let's say, hypothetically, a Tuesday, right? Because we're hearing the numbers of accusers increase. And then they're having a lawsuit filed on their behalf in like 48 hours. So I can't really explain the strategy and the strategic advantage of filing a lawsuit that quickly when you first meet the client. There's got to be a natural vetting period. There's got to be a period where you put some character and some artful wording into the complaint. But, you know, these are, and I'm just, I can say this isn't you, Zach. These are largely cut and paste jobs from one to the other. Some of them have nuance because they're obviously different allegations, but, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's boilerplate and he's just copying and pasting over to the other one. So, a high-profile case, I would not have recommended that. I just think it doesn't show the firm in the best light. But you know, that's those are some of the oddities of Tony Busby. We haven't even got to the fun ones, but those are some of them.
I don't know if you've seen he has a cooking show.
I did not see that. What's it called? Cooking with Busby?
It's like something you'd see on Food Network, except it's him driving around in like his Maserati, and it's like it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But I want to ask. It was strictly on Facebook, and I think they canceled it. It's. I hope more people see it. I'm always under the belief that where there's smoke, there's fire, and with all of these allegations, it can't be 100. My personal belief that it would be very odd if every single one of these was bogus. Do you think? Because I know after the first one, Watson came out and said, "Oh, they're just trying to get money out of me and this and that." And I know the lawyer, Rusty Hardin, came out and said something like, "We'll make a public statement." Do you think if this was your client and if you thought there was potentially this many people that were going to be going after him, you would make a statement after that first one and make it seem like, "Oh, this is just one thing and it'll blow away"?
So here's what Hardin's doing. Rusty Hardin, who's a veteran Houston sports attorney who defended James Harden, Adrian Peterson, Roger Clemens. The guy's been around the block. Tony Busby's strategy, and he's playing to people he's playing to the public sentiment. How could 20 people be making it up, right? Maybe one, maybe two, but 20 women. Like, how can you fight against that? So Busby's is basically going with the strength by numbers argument, right? How could everyone be making it up? And Hardin, and I think to his credit, basically turned around and he made a submission that one of the women he believed was lying. And he put a submission forward that this woman propositioned them for $30,000, I guess a couple months back, but acknowledged that the relationship was consensual. So maybe it's a red flag that Watson's having a consensual relationship with one of the massage therapists. Maybe that's a red flag, but I guess according to Hardin or Watson's camp, this is a consensual relationship. So one of these he's saying is a farce. So if you do that, it's like a house of cards. If you pull a piece out, the thing can come tumbling down, like Jenga or any type of analogy that works like that. But yeah, I mean, it goes both ways. Could 20 people be, all making up a story? It's possible.
Sure.
It's probably unlikely. But that's their burden to prove. The problem, though, and this is what Rusty Hardin's trying to do, if you kind of cast doubt in the jury pool's eyes, hey, if one woman's making it up, and Tony Busby is kind of rushing these cases. He's going from, hey, nice to meet you, welcome to my firm, to here's a complaint the next day, I already wrote it for you. Maybe it's a fair allegation that he's not properly vetting these complaints. So yeah, if the sole person vetting them is Tony Busby, I don't know how confident we are. And then that leads us to kind of the next conversation. When a criminal case is filed, that will tell you a lot about the confidence in these charges.
I know I saw that he wasn't taking it to the Houston police. Did you find that odd?
Well, it's odd because he said he was going to take it to the Houston police. And then we didn't hear anything for a couple days. And then he goes, just kidding, I'm not, because I ran for mayor. This is also not normal for the lead attorney in this big of a case to have run for mayor. None of this stuff is that normal. But he goes, I ran for mayor and I told the chief police in Houston to step down as part of my platform. So the Houston police, I'm paraphrasing, but the Houston Police Department probably doesn't love me. So I know I said I was going to file with them, but just kidding, I'm not. And also the reason I'm not is because Rusty Hardin's son works for HPD and I don't really trust the Houston Police Department. So none of this is really that normal. It's a lot of red flags, just oddities on this case. So that's why I think it's captured the public's attention.
So let's play hypotheticals. If all of this is true, not talking about NFL ramifications, what kind of legal ramifications could there be for Deshaun Watson? If it's all true, if it's all true.
I mean, it's sexual assault charges. I mean, they're very serious charges. And just you can use your imagination. If there are 20 of them, and I'm telling you that one charge of sexual assault could be punishable by up to a year in jail. 20 of them, right? You multiply it out. So extremely serious. A case with, and I mean, you want to just figure on the NFL level of seriousness. Antonio Brown, who threw rocks at a delivery truck driver in Florida. It was he technically could have been charged with felony for what he did. They potentially attacked a delivery truck driver, went after him, claimed he was stealing his stuff, and he wasn't. On an NFL level of severity, the NFL adjudged, whether it was just that or if it was everything happening together, but adjudged that to be worthy of an 8-game suspension, which is a lot. And NFL players aren't usually suspended for 8 games. So if Watson is hit with multiple criminal charges, this is going to be a very lengthy suspension. Could it be 8 games? Sure. Could it be more? Sure. Could it be the entire season? Sure. But it's not a case the NFL's ever seen. So, we're going to be rewriting precedent. The only thing I'll caution, the DA taking the case. So just so people are aware, criminal court is beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a fancy way of saying we think we can get guilt. It's a high number, 85% guilty, 90% guilty. It's a lot of confidence in the case. If the DA does not take the case, that means that they don't feel that they can get a conviction. That's generally what it means. Or there's some other issue that I'm not aware of. But if they take the case, the NFL suspension is very likely. If they don't take it, I'd say all bets are kind of off. We don't know one way or the other. And just to put a pin in it, Antonio Brown, they tried to get him on criminal charges, and DA's office didn't take the case.
What type of timeline are you expecting with this? Assuming they do take, let's say they do take the case, what type of do you think it's to be like a couple of years, or do you think it'd be soon? Is that a whole other ball game, or?
Criminal cases go quicker than civil cases, just generally. But for point of reference, the civil case with Antonio Brown is still active. It is still alive in Florida. People might have think like, oh, Antonio Brown pled guilty and obviously he served his time, but like he hasn't pled guilty. He's still fighting it, and the DA's office didn't take the case. So that's kind of this troubling part about how long this case goes. People pay attention to the headlines, and then they lose track of it. And there's going to be a significant portion of the public, I don't know how much it is, that just assumes that Watson's guilty. They've moved on to the next story, right? They're talking about Free Britney. They're talking about Alston versus NCAA. They're talking about 100 other things other than this case. And then they're gone. And Watson's convicted in the court of public opinion. So that's why it's important. Like, civil cases can take a while, years. I've had cases that lasted 3, 4, 5 years. I don't think it's going to take that long, just given Watson's notoriety. But there's 20 cases. Right? It's like almost like a class action lawsuit. Like those aren't quick cases because there's depositions, there's discovery from 20 different people. It might go a little bit quicker because it's just one firm at this point. But yeah, this is not a quick exit strategy, short of some type of global settlement. But Watson at this point would be pretty hard pressed to take a settlement.
You think it's beyond? If we move past the time for a settlement before this is wait, or do you think it's still like this could all disappear?
It's not going to disappear if you take settlement. He's still going to get suspended.
Yeah.
And if you settle the cases with the victims, it doesn't mean a criminal case goes away. You could pay some amount of money. The DA's office doesn't care about money; they care about justice. So I think the ship has sailed on a settlement. I mean, if he could pull it off, if he wants to pony up millions, the issue that I would have if I was Watson, like apparently, if you believe Watson, Busby approached him for a 6-figure settlement prior to the first case being filed. So he decided to decline that. And then, another 20 cases were filed after that. So, like, should Watson have paid the $500,000? Cost benefit analysis, who knows? But like, 20 other women would have come forward. So, maybe it was smart that he didn't pay it because these other women would have still happened. So, yeah, I think the ship has kind of sailed on settlement. He's put his foot in his ground, the foot in the ground, and he said, like, I'm not guilty. I didn't do it. So, yeah, he's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place.
What did you think of the news yesterday when it came out, when he had all these other massage therapists thinking, okay, I don't know anybody in the world that has 40 massage therapist numbers on their phones, 18 of them come out in support of him? Does you think that hurts or helps him that he knows even more massage therapists?
Um, how do I phrase it? I mean, it's still odd. I can't explain why that would be the case that someone had 40 massage therapists, but yeah, I mean, it probably helps his case that there are people that are lining up to support him, but it's odd. I don't really know how to phrase it other than to say that it's not a normal thing that anyone's heard of to have that many.
And then if there's no video or no physical evidence, this is all considered hearsay, right?
Yes and no. I mean, there is some comments from Watson. There are some comments from the accused. So that's not necessarily hearsay. Those are parties to the case. So, I mean, it depends what comes out. But if you have text messages, DMs, those could be used as evidence. As long as they're somewhat legit. So, yeah, I don't think we know the full bag of evidence. I mean, that's what we have for discovery. We have depositions. A lot of it's going to be he said, she said, and it's only Zach to at least it's only hearsay until someone says it under oath. And once the victims say it under oath, it's no longer hearsay. So these out of court statements, there's a version of them when they're hearsay, but they can, I mean, the victims are here. It's not a case where someone's unavailable for whatever reason. I wouldn't be worried. I don't think hearsay is going to be any type of issue.
And if this is the end of the lawsuits, what's the next step?
This is the end of the civil lawsuits.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. If this is the end of the allegations, the number, that's it. There's nobody else comes forward. What's the next step? What happens now?
So as a gambling man, Zach, I would say that the odds of that happening, more lawsuits, is probably like minus 600. In that vicinity. There's going to be more civil lawsuits. I don't, if this is the end, I think, whenever they stop, let's say they stop at 25, stop at 26, whatever. At this point, I'm not shocked if that number gets even higher, honestly. But the civil cases would progress. And if and when a criminal case is brought, that's when the criminal case would take over. It would supersede the civil case. So if a criminal case happens, if and when that happens, I think an NFL suspension is imminent, absolutely imminent. But I think the NFL is playing wait and see because they don't want to get caught with egg on their face. I know, Zach, I don't know if you know this. I used to work for the New York Giants back in the day, and there was a big DeAndre Baker lawsuit that occurred fairly recently. And I haven't
Dunbar.
Yeah, Quentin Dunbar, DeAndre Baker. The Giants cut him. He was placed in the commissioner's exempt list, and then the criminal charges were dropped. So Giants looked pretty bad. The NFL looked pretty bad because the guy was innocent. He wasn't convicted of anything. So I don't think the NFL with someone like Watson wants to have egg on their face. So I think they're waiting to do anything until the DA kind of steps in. And if the DA says no criminal charges, we're not filing criminal charges, it's going to be a really, really tough decision for the NFL.
So you're not surprised he hasn't been placed in the commissioner's exempt list?
If I'm Roger Goodell, I'm waiting as long as possible to do it because these are civil cases and it's a poor precedent. Like I'll give you a crazy example. And Jack, I imagine you're like a fantasy football fan.
Of course.
I had a feeling when I saw the sweatshirt. But there's like, let's say anybody can sue anyone for anything. Truthfully, anyone can sue anyone. There is no bar to the courthouse steps. It's the good and bad part about our justice system. If you allowed someone to get suspended, just from civil allegations, like 10 people could line up and they say, "Hey, I'm suing. I'm going to make up a guy, Roger Smith. We're going to sue Roger Smith for sexual assault." And maybe Roger Smith, wins the case and he sues him for defamation afterwards. But like, should Roger Smith be allowed to be suspended because 10 people, without any vetting from the DA's office, without a judge putting a stamp of approval on it? I think it's a really slippery slope. So that's why I'm kind of in support of I don't know if they're going to rewrite the NFL code of conduct, but criminal cases tell you, hey, it's a loose guy, but like if the DA's office, an independent third party thinks that like, hey, there's a really good chance of a conviction, which is like a 85-90% chance. That's a pretty good bar. The NFL's bar is just, hey, if a guy's in a little bit of trouble, we want to protect the shield, we're going to suspend him. I don't know if I love that, such a low bar. I think it's a little strange, but I get it's the NFL's a business, but I don't really think it's fair to, the innocent until proven guilty standard. That's the whole country.
Do you think maybe, I'm trying to think of the way to phrase this. Have you seen any lawsuits in the past where maybe one or two of the initial lawsuits were valid and then a bunch of people just piled on and it just kind of came in and
It's
maybe,
always gonna, it's always going to happen.
yeah.
Yeah, it's always going to happen with like class action lawsuits, stuff like that. Some cases are going to be better than other ones. That's why in a class action lawsuit, you're going to have a lead plaintiff and then you're going to have trail plaintiffs. The lead plaintiff you want to be the one that best represents the cause. So yeah, the way Busby set up the case, he's got to be a little worried because he's filing these so quickly one after the other. We're calling them like, right, the 20 lawsuits. It's not, hey, this one is nuance. He's not letting them breathe, so to speak, to give you an easier way to put it. So, yeah, I mean, it's happened before. You hope it's not happening here, but it wouldn't be the first time.
Are you surprised they're so scattered, or do you think it would have been the Busby, the way I guess it's more commonly done is as soon as he gets all of them in order, then he just then it goes public. It's the way they're just coming in and out. They're just coming. They're adding on. Is the timing with that, with the trade, and then all of a sudden you see the number rising and rising. Do you think this is more? It wasn't as calculated, or do you think just more people eat it now?
I don't know. I can't put my finger on why. I can just tell you that the timing of all of them coming together now, it seems to me from someone on the outside that that's what someone would do if they were trying to force someone to settle the civil case, right? Busby's going out and he's saying, hey, it's not about the money. It's about, making an example. But like you would make an example out of someone by going to the DA's office and going to the police department. That's how you make an example out of someone. Civil case, hopefully people, and I'm happy to explain, but civil cases are about money. That's how to make someone whole financially. Criminal cases are about punishing someone, putting someone in jail, right? Putting someone on probation. The only remedies you can get in civil court are financial, or maybe like you can get back if someone stole something, you can get it back from them. But like, I don't know, that's about money. So if you file 20 civil cases before speaking to the police department, because he hasn't spoke to Houston PD yet, like, actions speak louder than words. You can say it's not about money, but you filed 20 civil cases. So at a certain point, it's got to be a little bit about money, or else don't file any cases, right? Just have a press conference.
Yeah. Well, that's really all the legal questions. It's a real weird situation. Hopefully, everything gets settled out, and they can figure everything out and get the truth and do what they have to do. But I do appreciate you taking the time to jump on for a few minutes and talk. How can people find you on social media? I saw you have a podcast, and also find your firm.
Yes. So my firm, Garagos and Garagos, people probably have heard the name. We represented Colin Kaepernick once upon a time going after the NFL. My office in New York City. Yeah, I'm at Sports Law Lust on Instagram and Twitter, and my podcast, Conduct Detrimental. If you're into the sports law side, we had the commissioner of the MAC conference on, and he was talking all things college basketball, name, image, and likeness, the disparity between the men's and women's bubbles, Title IX. Heavy case, but we also went over NCAA versus Alston, the big Supreme Court case. So yeah, all things sports and law, and yeah, it's we'll say it's a very busy time between Watson and the Supreme Court taking on sports law.
What do you think about that? Do you think the likeness, image, and likeness is coming sooner, or do you think it's going to be going on and on?
I think there's going to be a lot more court battles before any of it sees the light of day. But yeah, you give me a bold prediction, I'm going to say by the end of 2021, not summer, which as many have predicted, but I think it's probably closer toward the fall.
Awesome. Well, do appreciate you taking time. Wish it was under better circumstances, but this has been really, really interesting. So I want to thank you.
Yes, my pleasure, Zach.
Cool. All right.